Hello everyone, it's Dr. Manjiri Narkani, Ayurvedic MD, registered holistic nutritionist back today. Today we're going to talk about triglycerides so this was a question that was asked by someone, how do I reduce triglyceride levels? So that's why the talk today, right? So welcome to day 80 of 100 days of Ayurveda. So we are almost 20 days the last 20 days of the sessions, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to start with some other sessions. So if you are used to watching this lives, you don't have to worry about missing out. For those who are new here, my name is Dr. Manjiri Narkani. I'm an Ayurvedic MD. I'm also a registered holistic nutritionist. I'm also a certified base allergy therapist, and I try to make Ayurveda extremely simple and accessible to everyone so that you can really benefit, in terms of your health by implementing this ancient, wonderful science. If you are watching this live, say a quick hi so I know you're watching this live and I can, check in with you. I have quite a few people tune in live, so thank you for your support. If you are watching this as a replay, you can always post your questions in the comments and put a hashtag as replay so that I know you're watching this. And feel free to share this with your friends and family. If you know somebody who has issues with triglycerides, who has high levels of triglyceride and they're extremely worried about their health, please share this video or tag them here, and this will definitely benefit them get a different perspective on their health, right? So let's talk about triglycerides and why do they matter, right? So what exactly are triglycerides? So triglycerides typically are fats. They're a category of fats or lipids, right? They occur when calories that we consume remain unused, right? So we've spoken about cholesterol in the previous video. If you haven't watched that, you can always go back and watch the live session. It's everything is recorded and for accessible later on. So at any point of time you want to access this, you're most welcome. So we've spoken about cholesterol. Let's talk about triglycerides. So they are an important measure of your health and especially heart health, right? And a lot of people are worried when the triglyceride levels are too high. So what exactly are triglycerides? So they're a kind of fat or a lipid, right, which is found in your blood. And typically what happens is when you eat any food, when you eat food, your body converts the calories that it's not using up into triglycerides, and then they're stored into your fat cells, and later on certain hormones can release these triglycerides for energy, right? So that is why triglycerides indicate a lot of your unused energy, a lot of calories that you're eating but you're not using. If you are someone that's constantly eating excess calories, if you're eating a lot of junk foods, if you're eating a lot of food that's calorie rich but not nutrient rich, you could have high triglycerides. This is also a common condition that we see sometimes in people having diabetes or impaired insulin function, right? So this is what triglycerides are all about. So they are not needed by us, right? Because we're not exercising or something and we're eating too much. Then these are going to be accumulated and stored in the fat cells. And when your body needs it, only then will they be released, right? So typically insulin or the sugar balancing hormone is also going to allow access to triglycerides, right? So when you need these triglycerides, they're going to be broken down and they're going to be used up by the body, right? So they are then divided into glycerol and fatty acids. And typically the glycerol molecule is used for glucose production and production of energy, right? Production of cellular energy. And the process is known as beta oxidation that happens in the body. So triglycerides are extremely important for everyone to understand, and also to understand whether you're eating way more than calories than you are burning. If you're having a lot of carbs, if you're having a lot of high glycemic index foods, excess sugars, that also could lead to impaired glucose metabolism, and that could also lead to malfunction of your entire system, and you could also have high triglycerides. Also, another factor to consider is liver, right? So your liver produces bile acids which can actually balance. So if your bile isn't functioning well, you could have high levels of triglyceride. And if your bile is not functioning well, that could also be a result of your liver not functioning well, right? So that's something that's important to know. So what is considered normal when it comes to triglycerides? So there are different numbers that we talk about, right? So less normal is usually less than 1.7 millimoles per liter, and borderline is when you have 1.8 to 2.2 millimoles per liter. Very high is 2.3 to 5.6 millimoles per liter, and very high can be understood as above 5.7 millimoles per liter, right? So that's something to understand, that it has to be between the normal ranges. And there is a difference between triglycerides and cholesterol, right? So cholesterol typically in your body is used for body function. It's used to build the cells up. It's also used for hormones. It's a precursor to cortisol. It's also a precursor to certain hormones in your body. But triglycerides are basically unused calories, and their main function is energy production, right? So if you are someone who's eating a lot, and if you are chronically not working out, if you are having a sedentary lifestyle, if you hate working out, or for some reason, you've had a surgery, or you've had a fracture or some kind of trauma because of which, you cannot move, or you have impaired bodily movements, and, you can't exercise, then these triglycerides are going to be elevated, or produced more in your body, at least till that time, right? And there are different conditions that we can talk about. So different conditions where you can see high triglycerides. The one thing I mentioned was type 2 diabetes, or even pre-diabetes. So if your blood sugar is kind of borderline, and if you have really high triglycerides, watch your blood sugar, because it could be a sign that, you are having pre-diabetes, or you're going in that direction of type 2 diabetes, or maybe you already have that. So if you have high triglycerides, always monitor your blood sugar, because that's going to give you a good idea of what's happening in your body, right? There is another condition known as metabolic syndrome, which is extremely common now. So it is like a triad of high blood pressure, obesity, as well as high blood sugar together. So you're not just diabetic, but you also have high blood pressure, and you are obese as well. And this can really increase your risk of heart disease. And triglycerides could also be a sign that you're suffering from metabolic syndrome. Triglycerides also can be a sign that you could have lower levels of thyroid hormone. So if you have hypothyroidism, chances are you also have high triglycerides, right? And certain different genetic conditions can also affect how our body converts fat into energy. And that can also contribute you to having high amounts of triglycerides, right? And then there are certain medications. So certain medications can also have side effects which could create high amounts of triglycerides. An example is certain diuretic medications, or if you're taking estrogen and progestin, if you're taking any kind of retinoids or steroids or beta blockers, or if you're taking some immunosuppressants as well. So different medicines can also create high triglycerides, right? Any questions? I know if you are watching this live, so if you can say a quick hi, post a comment. Have you had your triglycerides checked? And if you have any questions, you're most welcome to post the questions in the comment section. So triglycerides, coming back to it, right? So what is the best way to reduce triglycerides, right? So when we talk about triglycerides, one of the biggest factors that you have to understand is exercise, right? Because these are created by unused calories. You're nearly not exercising as much, or you're not using up these calories. And when we talk about Ayurvedic medicine, Ayurveda always talks about exercise, incorporating exercise as a form of lifestyle. So it's not about working out twice a week, or 3 times a week, or 4 times a week, but at least 30 minutes of daily activity, at least 30 minutes of regular activity, till the time your forehead starts sweating. is a good indicator of having had enough exercise. So the first thing you need to do is you have to make sure you're exercising enough and on a daily basis. Hi, Janice. Janice, nice to see you. Ah, I've been working today on my laptop all day, so I have a little bit of, brain fog. Yeah. So exercise, 30 minutes every single day, right? You could bike, you could walk, you could do sun salutations at home, you could do yoga, you could do power yoga, you could do stretching, but some kind of bodily movement, some kind of exercise. And if you do a little more intensity wise, a little bit higher intensity where you're actually sweating on your forehead, that shows you've had enough exercise. So that's the one thing you have to follow, is incorporate more exercise. And incorporating regular exercise is one of the best ways to lower your triglycerides and also increase your good cholesterol or HDL that we talked about in the previous video, right? The second thing, when we talk about diet, one of the biggest things you need to do is avoid sugar and refined carbs. And I know I keep talking about this in all my sessions. And every session, I'm like, okay, stop the sugar, stop the sugar, stop eating sugar, right? So every session, if I'm talking about, stop eating refined sugar because it does a lot of damage to your body. So sugar can increase a lot of inflammation in your body. Sugar can totally throw your blood sugars off balance, right? And it can impact the secretions of your insulin. It can create a condition of insulin insensitivity in your body where your cells are not responding to the insulin. So refined sugar is really bad for you more than anything fried. I think the first thing you should start getting rid of in your diet is refined sugar, right? So if you cut down on this refined sugar, if you cut down on this simple carbs, if you replace juices by fresh fruit, if you add lots of fiber to your diet, if you stop eating pastries, and go for a fruit maybe instead. So start where you are and do small changes, because we're talking about building into lifestyle changes. We're not talking about going on a certain diet for a certain period of time, right? So cut sugar out as much as you can. Gradually, that's fine, but cut it out. And for that, try to be aware of how much your sugar consumption is. So if you're someone who's eating a lot of packaged foods, try to read the amount of sugars, right? Try to see if how many grams of sugar you're having. So 4 grams is typically equivalent to 1 teaspoon of sugar. If you're having 40 grams of sugar every single day, you're having at least 8 spoons of excess sugar, and typically in a pop, there could be 35 to 40 grams of sugar. You'll never sit and eat 8 spoons of sugar because that's just gross, right? But you can easily have 8 spoons of sugar in a pop. So try, change your diet, try to cut all this junk out of your diet and try to cut excess sugar out of your diet. That's extremely important. The same with refined food. So anything made with white flour, even different foods made with fructose, right, which is fruit sugar, can also increase your triglycerides. When we talk about white flour or all-purpose flour, they absolutely do not have any nutrients in them. It's just, it converts to sugar in your body easily. So that is the second thing you need to do. You need to completely avoid sugar as well as refined carbs from your diet. And you don't have to cut out the complex carbs. So there is a difference between what I'm saying. So you can definitely have your root vegetables, sweet potatoes, you can have whole grains. But when it comes to simple carbs, when it comes to cheaper carbs, when it comes to carbs that are impacting your blood sugar, try to cut those out. So that's the number 2 thing you need to do, right? The other thing that you have to work on is really starting to think about your weight, right? So if you have excess weight on your body, the excess fat can also contribute to high triglyceride levels. So try to figure out, why are you gaining weight? And different people have different reasons why they gain weight. Some people might have a completely sedentary lifestyle where they're not using up any of the calories that they're eating. Other people might be exercising, but they might have chocolate bars because they did 30 minutes of cardio today, right? So you're actually not just counteracting your exercise, but you're eating way more as a reward, right? If you are someone who's emotional eating, if you're under a lot of stress or you're extremely tired, you could eat too much and that can lead to weight gain. Even certain people with digestive disorders, because I work a lot with digestive issues, so certain people who have a really poor digestion, or if you have multiple food sensitivities, or if you're unable to digest even things like protein, you might stick to carbs or cheaper carbs and start eating a lot of carbs and gain weight. So that could be another reason why you're gaining weight. A lot of the times I've also seen people turn vegetarian and vegan, and nothing wrong with being a vegetarian or vegan. My diet is predominantly plant based, right? And I hardly eat, like, I don't eat meat. I typically don't eat a lot of fish, like only on some days. But if you're somebody who's just shifting, towards a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, and you start eating a lot of packaged foods because they're easy and because you're clueless when it comes to vegetarian or vegan foods, what to eat, you might end up packing a lot of pounds. And this is what I see in my practice, right? So sometimes people move a lot towards pasta because that is vegetarian or that is vegan, rather than having whole fruits and vegetables. So try to find out the cause of your weight gain, and that will help you lose weight. So that's number three thing that you need to do, right? When we talk about Ayurveda, right? When we talk about Ayurveda, we're not just talking about weight management or lowering triglycerides. We're talking about your entire body, and most of these conditions, happen, like even triglyceride or cholesterol issues, happen because of impaired Agni, right? So your digestive fire is your Agni. Your fire is also, metabolic fires are also situated everywhere in your body. So we talk about 13 different kinds of fire in Ayurveda, or Agnis, right? So we talk about the Jaఠragni, which is your stomach fire, or the function of your gastrointestinal tract, how your digestive system is breaking the foods down. Is it assimilating the foods? Is it excreting what's not necessary? That can be understood as this Jaఠragni. Then we talk about five bhutagnis, or that can be understood as metabolic fires, or sometimes it can also be understood as metabolism that happens in your liver, to package and repackage different things and break different things down. And we also talk about seven tissue fires, right? So the tissue fires mainly have to do with the processing of a certain tissue. So if you are making excess fat in a not so great way, which is like fatty things like cholesterol or triglycerides, it also means that your Med Dhatvagni, or the metabolic fire that's representative for processing the fatty tissue in your body, is not functioning well, right? And there could also be a thing called ama, which is undigested toxins in your body. And these excess ama is the product that begins to circulate throughout your body, and it creates a lot of issues, right? So once it's mixed with your fat tissue, it can become this amavish, and it can damage all the body channels and also create conditions like heart disease. So that is why it is extremely important to understand that you have to focus on your digestion and focus on your Agni. And there's also an interesting relationship. So if you look at the bile acids, right, there are lots of studies done that having good amounts of bile acids, which are also, you can correlate it with pitta in Ayurveda. So if your pitta function is good, then automatically you're not going to have excess amounts of triglyceride. But for some reason, if your liver function is impaired, for some reason, if you're not producing enough bile acids, you might have high triglyceride levels, right? So rather than trying to look for a pill option, rather than trying to, just pick something off the counter or try a supplement and forget about everything else, try to do simple changes to your diet and lifestyle, because these are going to work long term for your health, right? So let's talk about a few things related to Ayurveda and how we can reduce our triglycerides, specifically with Ayurveda. So I mentioned talking about ama. I mentioned about your liver function and really focusing on that, right? And you have to balance, your diet and lifestyle. You have to first of all eat foods that are aligned with your personality type, and that are also going to balance any kind of condition you're having. So when we talk about triglycerides and fatty acids, you have to make sure you're not eating excess saturated fats or excess fats, because you're already not processing these well, and you already have too many in the body, right? So whatever your dosha type is, you could be a vata, you could be a pitta, or you could be a kapha. Reduce the amount of saturated fats for a certain time till you get an idea where your triglyceride issues are coming from. And ghee, definitely you can have in small quantities. Plant-based fats actually work really well. A lot of plant sterols can balance your triglycerides as well as your cholesterol, right? So that is something you can definitely add to your diet. But a lot of animal fats, or try to reduce excess fried foods, or a lot of heavier fats which are difficult to process. So even in Ayurveda, when we look at lard, which is understood as vasa or muscle fat, so having fattier cuts of meat, it's going to be really heavy for you to digest, right? So try to go for lighter oils, or try to go for even ghee, which is a really good fat for your body, right? So those are a few things you can do. The other one thing to really remind yourself and remember, and I say this to all my clients, whenever we talk about liver function, the biggest thing that damages your liver is alcohol, right? So it could be the one drink you're having every day because that's your release, or it could be the social binge drinking that on the weekend you're having like 6 beers or something. But if you have high triglyceride levels, if you have high cholesterol levels, you have to cut alcohol completely out of your diet, right? Because that's not just going to create a lot of inflammation in the body, it's also going to impact your liver, which is already showing signs of distress by producing excess triglycerides and cholesterol. So alcohol is something that you have to completely cut out if you're having issues with either cholesterol or triglycerides, or any other liver conditions for that matter. Completely cutting the cholesterol is a big must. There are certain foods that really work well. So one of my favorite ones is barley, also known as yo, right? So barley also has chromium in it, which helps balance blood sugar. Barley also is seen to improve fat metabolism, right? Barley is a gluten grain. So if you're gluten intolerant, chances are you can't have it. But if you're intolerant just to wheat, you can definitely have barley in your diet. And that's also going to give you some chromium to balance your blood sugar. And that's also going to give you um, help your fat metabolism. The other thing to include is oats, preferably steel cut oats, right? So steel cut oats have good amounts of fiber, which can bind excess unnecessary fat and throw it out of your body. Also, foods that have good amounts of zinc are extremely important. You can have some pumpkin seeds. You can also have quinoa, which is a high protein grain. And this high protein grain is going to balance your blood sugar rather than keep it spiking up and down, right? So that's something to really understand um, and eat in your diet. So again, like sweet drinks, sugars, excess dried fruits as well, or any kind of alcohol, you have to completely avoid. And stress levels play a huge role on your body, right? When we talk about anger, liver is also like affected by extreme amounts of anger. So your body has different organs which also respond to your emotions. Your entire body responds to emotions. And if you're someone who's extremely anxious, if you're someone who's extremely angry, if you're somebody who's extremely frustrated, try to incorporate meditation in your life. Try to incorporate some release. It could be gardening, it could be playing a sport, it could be taking walks out in the nature, it could be swimming, it could be talking to someone who's providing emotional support, or going for counseling. But you need to take the stress off, because stress is definitely one of the main factors that's linked to everything, right? So stress is the pandemic in today's world. We're talking of pandemic of corona or COVID-19, but stress has been dominant for a long time. And that is one thing that's going to impair function of your entire body and different organs as well, right? So these are a few things you can do today to balance your triglycerides. Now, one thing I would really like to know from you is what did you learn from today? And what is the one action that you're going to take to be able to balance your triglyceride levels, right? Because these indicate you're having excess calories which you're not using up and they're getting stored in the body. So whether you commit to exercising more or taking more walks or changing your diet, feel free to comment here and let me know. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with me and I'll be more than happy to answer. Um, if you want, we can always set up a 15-minute call and see how we can work together and how I can guide you through changing your diet by creating a custom meal plan for you that is based on Ayurvedic principles. That's what I specialize in. So thank you once again for watching this live. Tomorrow at 8 p.m., I'm going to talk about heart health and how to have a healthy heart for life, right? So that's what we're focusing on tomorrow. We've spoken about cholesterol, we've spoken about triglycerides today. Tomorrow we go one step further and we focus on heart health. And tomorrow I'm going to be sharing about different herbs that can help as well. So we're going to go and talk a little bit about cholesterol, triglycerides, and also a few herbs that work for all three: cholesterol, triglycerides, as well as your heart health. So that's what we're going to talk tomorrow at 8 o'clock sharp. Perfect. So thank you so much for watching this live. And my laptop has been having some issues with my microphone. So that is why I'm literally live from my dining table. And that's why you can see my living room yellow wall right here. So things happen in life and you just make the best of the lemons that you've been given. Thank you again for watching this live. Have a fantastic night. And I will see you all tomorrow. Till then, have a good night and stay safe and take care of your health. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.